This is the third podcast, and we're going to talk about the prayer protection. The prayer protection was given to me when I first started to meditate many years ago. And at the time, I was concerned about going into meditation and getting the feeling that I didn't want any outside interference from entities, not knowing who they were. So my teacher at the time, Reverend D, she was a female metaphysical minister, gave me this prayer. And so I would use this prayer going into meditation. And once I said the prayer, I knew that if anything happened to me during the meditation, it would be divine guided. So it allowed me to relax, whether I heard outside influences like the wind blowing against the window and the window shaking, or if I felt something in my body, I would always just relax and know that it was just divine guidance. So I used this, and I used it many times, even when I was having a Kundalini experience in my body. When I first started to meditate, I didn't know anything about chakras or Kundalini or anything. I just had this desire to sit down and meditate based on a psychic reading I received from my metaphysical minister. And so when I first started to meditate, I would listen to my thoughts. I've always listened to my thoughts, and my thoughts were like divine guided. It's hard to say that they were divine guided, but I always would get thoughts that I would listen to, and they made sense, and I would do it, and it was true what the guidance was. So I started to meditate, and when I first started to meditate, I started having all these terrible thoughts in my mind. They were sensual. They were actually, some of them were obscene. And I didn't know. My teachers told me, just sit, relax, let these thoughts come and go, and you'll be okay. So I continued to meditate, and eventually after a day or so, the obscene thoughts would dissipate. And maybe about a week later, I started seeing colors, beautiful colors, greens and purples, colors I have never seen on Earth before, just beautiful colors. And so that went on for about a week, and then a week later, I would start feeling these sensual feelings in my second chakra, which is the genitals. And I'm sitting there in meditation, feeling these sensual feelings, very pleasurable feelings. And I'm thinking, well, I'm not thinking of anything sexual or sensual. Why? What's causing these feelings? Well, at the time, what I didn't realize is that I was opening up my chakras one by one. Like I said, I didn't know what chakras were. And then after that, the third week, I started to get a pulsation right behind my breastbone. And I didn't know if it was my heart or what it was. I later found out that the pulsation was too low for my heart, so I just tolerated it. But it was this pulsation that I could feel as if someone was tapping my chest. This went on for a while. But in all of this going on, I just knew it was divine guided, and just to relax and just be witness to what was happening. Well, then a third thing happened, or a week later. I started to receive an energy coming into the palm of my left hand, moving up my arm slowly. I've got this pulsation in my breastbone. I've got this energy moving up my arm. And then I started hearing this noise in my right ear like a freight train was coming. And so again, I'm relaxed. I know this is all divine guidance, and I didn't know where it was going to, but I'm just relaxing as if I'm watching a movie and being patient to seeing what happened. And then when the energy got into my shoulder and got into the cavity of my body, I still got the pulsation in my solar plex, the tornado or freight train noise in my ear. And then I started taking on this rhythmic breathing, uncontrollable, this. So I'm taking on this breathing, and all of a sudden, in my mind's eye, now my eyes are closed at this time, and I'm relaxed as much as possible. Then in my mind's eye comes a brilliant light. I mean, the light was so brilliant. My eyes are closed, and I'm still trying to get away from this light. It's just a brilliant light. And that lasted for maybe about 30 seconds. And then I started to spiral out of my body. And at the time I was living on the Chesapeake Bay. So I spiraled out of my body, and I knew I was over the Chesapeake Bay. At this point in time, if I knew what I was doing, I could have gone any place in the universe. But I didn't know where I was going, and I didn't know how to handle the energy. So I just sent out a thought to my teachers, please take me back to my body. As soon as I finished that thought, well, before I finished the thought, I started to despiralize back into my body. And because I said the prayer of protection, I was relaxed through the entire process, knowing that it was divine guidance. So I continued to use the prayer of protection going into meditation. This was back probably when this happened. This was back in 1973. And so I continued to meditate using the prayer of protection and having other experiences, having other spiritual experience. Now, at the time, this is now, let's jump ahead to 1989. And so I never believed that, I won't say I didn't believe in ghosts, but I didn't believe that spiritual entities could attach to anyone. I thought, now that goes against free will, and that can't happen. So I'm out walking one night, and it's about, I used to take walks in the country. I lived in the country, no street lights, pitch black dark at night, but I got used to walking alone and in the dark because it would be like a walking meditation. I could have time to be with my teachers, discuss my day, what's going on in my life, looking for guidance or anything. And so I'm walking along, and all of a sudden, I feel like someone is standing right behind me. And I'm thinking, no, come on. 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, pitch dark. I didn't hear anybody approach me. And now I feel someone standing right behind me. The feeling was so strong, I had to stop and turn around and look, expecting to find someone. No one was there. So I went, So I just shrugged it off, continued my walk. This was a Sunday morning. Always got up early to take my meditation walk to be with my teachers in the dark. So I get home. The next night is Monday night. It's about 8:30 at night, and my boys are getting ready for bed. And the wife comes in and she says, I think we need to talk to our youngest son. I go, why? She says, well, when he goes into the bathroom, he thinks that when he looks into the mirror, he's going to see someone standing behind him. I went, oh. I says, okay. I says, I know what happened. So basically what happened is this entity that I thought was behind me attached to me. And then when I came home, he attached to my youngest son. And so I says, take him up in the green room. I had a green room when I did meditations and meditation classes in, and I would use the green room if I needed to talk to my boys about life and anything that was going on to, I won't say discipline them, but to explain to them what we do and what we don't do. So I called my son up into the green room, and he's sitting across from me, and his name was Dustin. And I says, Dustin, I'm going to say this prayer. Let me know what happens when I say this prayer. He says, okay. So I started to say the prayer. It only takes 15 seconds. In fact, I'll say the prayer now. It's, I surround myself in a circle of light and an armor of love, in which nothing can remain and through which nothing can penetrate, unlike divine love itself. I call upon my loved ones, the golden ones, to remove all energies and entities from my presence, whether they are malicious, deterrent, innocent, or ignorant, taking them to the Father for light and liberation. The Mother, Father, God frees the soul, frees these energies and entities, and I am accepts no reversal, individually or collectively, for the treatment of these energies and entities. We thank you in the name of the living God consciousness. Amen. So as soon as I finished the prayer, my son goes, it's gone. I says, what do you mean it's gone? He says, well, when you started to say the prayer, he says, I could feel this energy spiraling out of me and up through my head. He says, can I go to bed now? I said, yeah, you can go to bed now. So what this told me was that I had a tool that this one would release entities, attachments of entities. And so in 2012, I used this prayer. I would visit around the world, and on several occasions, when I traveled with my wife, we would stop at like cemeteries and places, and I would clear, if we were staying in a new hotel or a new home or something like that, I would say the prayer to clear the energy out of the room or any entities nearby that were seeking to go to the next level of spiritual development. And I would say the prayer, and 9 out of 10 times I would feel an energy flowing through me. So what I want else, let me see what I say. So this prayer is designed to assist trapped souls to go to the next level of soul development. Now, how does a soul become trapped? Well, at the time of death, all souls in the spiritual training school have free will. Free will means that when you die, when you die, you do not have to automatically go to the next level of soul development, especially if you're attached to the loved ones on earth. You can opt to stay behind, but if you stay behind, you're trapped. And if you're trapped, the only way you can move on is if someone assists you in moving on. I'm sure this prayer is just one means. I'm sure each culture, each spiritual religion or belief system has a prayer or a technique to assist souls to move to the next level of soul development. Working for the co-creator gods, the golden ones, I find that they give me the quickest way to do anything, all right? To remove fears, to heal the body, to assist souls to move to the next level of soul development. So we share this with you because a sign that a soul is trapped, what trapped souls will do is they will attach to people that they have a similar lifestyle. If they're an alcoholic, they'll attach to someone that has a drinking problem. If they're emotionally oriented, they'll attach to someone who is emotionally inclined, because when they attach, they live through the emotions of the person they're attaching to. Not only that, but they can influence the habits of the person they attach to. So for an example, let's say that you indulge in pornography and you've overcome that. You are no longer interested in pornography, but an entity attaches to you. you start finding yourself looking at pornography or on the internet. You start looking at things that you thought, why am I doing this? You don't know. Um, for an example, I was in upstate New York in about, oh my God, I think this was about 2013. And I was by myself. And I went out, it was at Thanksgiving time, and I was in the Walmart at Thanksgiving. And I was looking at all the poorly dressed people shopping, that you could tell they weren't well off, and they were buying inexpensive things, food and so forth. And so felt very compassionate to them. And so I come home about 3:30 in the afternoon, and I start doing things that I normally don't do. So it gets to be about 7 o'clock, and I normally meditate around 7 o'clock, and I go up to meditate, and I just couldn't I didn't feel like meditating, just could not get into meditating, didn't feel like saying my opening prayers, did not feel like saying the prayer of protection. And so I'm sitting there in my chair, and I talked to my teachers because I didn't feel in sync. I said, loved ones, I says, what's wrong with me? And I hear, you have an attachment. I go, what? They said, you have an attachment. And I'm thinking that probably earlier in the day in Walmart, I opened myself up to compassion to these individuals, and there might have been an entity there that was associated to someone else, and they attached to me because they know, trapped souls know, they can see your aura, and they can look at your aura and say, maybe this person can help me move on. So I'm sitting there thinking, this is crazy. So immediately I says, okay. So I said the prayer of protection. As soon as I said the prayer of protection, I didn't feel the energy moving off of me, but I felt much better. I felt back in sync in my body. And I went, oh my goodness gracious, it's crazy. So then I could go on and do my meditation. I felt grounded again in my being. I went on and did my meditation. So we'll tell you some of the signs that you will experience if you have a trapped soul in your surroundings. First of all, you'll feel as if someone's standing behind you. That's the first sign. You also feel that if you look in the mirror, you're going to see someone standing behind you. That's another sign. Also, children having nightmares. That is the third sign. If you have those three things happening to you or to your children, say the prayer of protection. I have a lot of children and parents coming into my home here in China because I teach English to young kids one-on-one. And they come in, and when they leave, I always say the prayer of protection in case any entities are attached to the parents or the children, and I'll say the prayer to remove them. When my children, I say children, I consider them my children, I love them all. When my students get to be about 12 or 13, age of reasoning, I'll ask them if they have any fears or anything that bothers them. Some of them have bad dreams. Some of them, one of them told me that when he looks in the mirror, he thinks he's going to see someone standing behind him. So I'll do the prayer of protection with him, or I'll share the prayer of protection where they can do it themselves. Anybody can say the prayer of protection to help anyone else. Also, if you have anything, a loved one that has just recently passed, you say the prayer of protection so they don't become attached to you or the home that you're in or anything like that. I started to do this podcast last week, and it just didn't work out. We had glitches. I was doing it with Renata, and we had glitches. And so we did the podcast, but it wasn't of good quality. And so it just didn't work out. And I felt like something else had to happen. And so what I did was, we didn't do the podcast. I listened to it. I edited it. I told Renata it was not a good podcast. Didn't want to put it up. And so I went on. I felt there was something else more important that my teachers wanted me to post. And so I did. I post I think it's the 56th teaching. It's called Who is God? Very powerful teachings. Recommend you go listen to it. I'm adding it to the website as a blog. It's not up there yet. So I told Renata we would do this podcast again, and for some reason this morning, I haven't heard from Renata, so I'm doing the podcast by myself. So what happened in between last week and this week, and I think this is why the podcast had to be delayed. I was married for 33 years. In fact, that was my first wife with my 4 children, 4 boys. And we separated after 33 years, back in 2000, 2001. And so I have been married 4 times, actually 6 times. 4 times were karmic relationships. I say karmic because when a man marries a woman in this spiritual training school, it is the male's responsibility to treat the female like a goddess. You do everything for her. If you do everything for her, the goddess will then feel secure and safe and do everything for the god. That's how it's supposed to work. If you are in a relationship where the male is not treating you like a goddess, you are not in a good relationship. End it, because you're not going to be happy in that relationship. And I am sure that the ones that are happy is where the man fully treats the woman, his goddess, as a goddess, and she will respond, opening up her heart, mind, soul to please her God. So I left many relationships, 4 relationships, because I felt not respected. Even though I felt I gave 100%, I didn't feel that the respect was there enhanced, and so I would terminate the relationship, or I felt that it wasn't going the way I wanted to go. So my wife of 33 years, she was in, I won't say hospice care, but she was in like a nursing home. And my son talked to me. She's been in this nursing home for maybe about a couple of years. And my son messaged me the other day saying that she's not responding in the nursing home and they need to send her to a permanent place because they can't care for her. So he would have to take her on. And Medicare would send her to his home, set up a hospital bed, the oxygen system, set up everything free. Medicare would do that. And so it was no cost to him to house her. If after a while, I forget what it was, if he had to put her in hospice care, they would do it for 5 days free, and then it would cost him like $600 a day. He did not have this money. And so if they thought that she wouldn't last long, maybe a few days, maybe a week and so forth. And he had to take a business trip in 10 days. And he said, well, hospice will take her for 5 days free, but after that you would have to pay. She would have to come back to the home. So he's thinking, I don't have the money for burial expense. It would cost $1,000 to cremate her. He says, what are my options? Well, he called the Georgetown Hospital. He lives in Washington, D.C. He called Georgetown Hospital, and they said, we will take the body for research. We'll pick up the body. We'll keep the body and research it for 3 years, and at the end of 3 years, we'll cremate you I cremate the body and send you the ashes at no cost to you. So you don't have to pay $1,000 for cremation. You don't have to pay for a casket or a burial plot or anything like that. It would be basically free. So he was telling me this, and it sounded like a good plan on his part. And so he talked to me. This was like last Friday. So I says, Dan, let me talk to my teachers about how we can work this out that is good for everyone. Because in my mind, I thought if she wasn't going to last long, maybe she could like pass away in where she was in this nursing home, and then the Medicare wouldn't have to come out to his house, set up the equipment, and if she died there, Georgetown wouldn't have to come and pick up the body and so forth and so forth. I was thinking that might be good for him. So I talked to my teachers, the golden ones. I told them the situations. Of course, they already knew the situations. But in addition, I talked to my wife at the time, Jan, my ex-wife, and I talked to her. You can talk to people, to the spirit of people, even though they are dead or dying. You can talk to their spirits. So I did a meditation where I talked to Jan, and I even talked to her mother, her deceased mother, and her deceased father, Larry and Betty, and I said that I was hoping that they were there with her, encouraging her to move on. That's what loved ones do in spirit realm. They help one another, and if their child is in the process of transitioning, they will come and meet them and encourage them to let go of the personal life and move on. So I did this ritual. I won't call it a ritual, but this healing with my ex-wife, her mother, her father, Larry and Betty, and my teachers. And I did this after I talked to my son last Friday. And periodically, I talked to my teachers, and all I'd have to do is I'd check in, and all they would tell me is all is well. I thought, okay. Usually when they tell me all is well, it is all is well. I have to just trust that all is well. Whatever happens, all is well. So this morning, I tell you this, the story, because it adds to the prayer protection, the purpose and how to use it. And so I get a message from my son this morning. He said that his mom, my ex-wife, passed away early Monday morning, which would have been July 10th. And I said, oh, I says, was she at your house? I messaged back and I said, was she at your house? He said, yes. He said, they brought Medicare and the nursing home, set up the equipment, the bed, the oxygen tank for her Sunday night at 6 p.m. At 6:30 Monday morning, she passed away, 12 hours later. And when she passed away, her 3 sons were there, and all the grandchildren were around giving her support. And my son said that even as she was laying there, she would smile. There was a couple of smiles, intermittent smiles, which to me was an indication that she was with her loved ones and they were encouraging her and so forth. And so she passed away. So I mentioned to my son that say the prayer of protection to assist her on her journey. So there's no inclination in her mind to stay attached to any of the grandchildren or any of the brothers or to the house that she passed away in, and to say the prayer of protection. And then thinking in retrospect about my teachers telling me everything, all is well, is that all is well, because if she passed away in the nursing home, all the brothers couldn't have been there at the time. Monday morning, they work, and the grandchildren couldn't have been there. So it was convenient for the passing of her to be passing with compassionate, supporting love in the physical realm, and her parents being in the spiritual realm to assist her on the journey. So all is well. And so with that story, and I will post the prayer protection into the body of this podcast, and say it to clear the energy from your home, clear the energy from your work environment. If you have any inclinations of someone standing behind you or your children, looking in the mirror or bad dreams, say the prayer, because what's happening is these attached souls are looking for a means to move to the next level of soul development, and you're assisting them. You're assisting yourself and you're assisting them. So with that in mind, let me end this podcast. Say namaste, much love to all, Satnam. See all the teachings of the Golden Ones at www.thepathtowoneness.com. Also at YouTube, Timothy Doyle, The Golden Ones. Visit us at Facebook and link it at The Path to Oneness.